Hello, my name's Anya, and I'm presenting Abstract Visual Reasoning with Tangram shapes. This is a joint work with Noriyuki, Noah, Alane, Waking, Robert, and Yoav. What does this shape look like to you? Some people might say it looks like a dog. Others say it looks like a sleeping human, a cat, a rabbit, or a pig. But on a second thought, why do we think it looks like a dog? It doesn't look like any dog we've encountered in real life or in photographs. This is a Tangram puzzle. Tangrams are abstract shapes built from 7 standard pieces. These Tangram shapes reveal the human capacity for visual abstraction, of generalizing concepts like dog away from their low-level features. Many tasks we study in NLP have a single correct answer, but Tangrams are interesting because they're fundamentally ambiguous. Due to this abstract nature, Tangrams are often used in reference games to study abstraction and convention formation in humans. So what is a reference game? As shown in the bottom right, it is an interaction where a speaker describes a target from a lineup of other objects, and a listener tries to identify the target based on the description. Because people often come up with different descriptions for the abstract shapes, this game requires people to coordinate on shared conventions. Both visual abstraction and referential ambiguity are challenging tasks to test the ability of generalization. As a result, both are important questions for NLP models and cognitive science. However, current research relies on a small set of tangrams. The lack of a wide range of diverse shapes limits our ability to test for generalization. My talk will be divided into 2 parts. First, I'll introduce Kilogram, a new resource we create using Tangram shapes. Second, I'll use Kilogram to analyze vision and language model generalization. Previous research using Tangrams are based on a small set of Tangrams. At its base, Kilogram is a resource that is orders of magnitude larger than the previous resources. As we can see on the left, we scanned 1016 Tangrams from the Tangram book and vectorized them into SVGs. So that rather than the traditional usage of an unstructured image, this representation allows us to directly manipulate each individual piece in the Tangrams. Furthermore, each Tangram comes with language annotations. Previous use of Tangrams includes only whole shape descriptions, as we can see in the example on the left. In Kilogram, because our Tangrams are separated into parts, we can also annotate part segmentation by grouping the pieces and annotate for the part names. This allows us to explore the relationship between the whole shape and the parts in abstract reasoning. To annotate all of these Tangrams, we created an interactive platform and crowdsourced annotations from Amazon Mechanical Turk. We showed each participant a shape and asked them to describe what it looks like as a whole. For example, for this one, we say it looks like a dog. We go beyond previous datasets by also eliciting further annotations of the parts that make it look like the whole shape. We ask participants to select a part by clicking on the Tangram pieces and type in the part name. So here we annotate the square as the head of the dog. Next, we can select the 3 pieces that we think make up the body. We also annotate the rest of the parts, the front leg, the back leg, and a curly tail. In the end, this task yields for each Tangram a whole shape name, a detailed segmentation map, and part names that correspond to each segmented part. And here we have a fully annotated Tangram. So what do we get? We have 1016 Tangrams, and we collected over 13,000 annotations. For each Tangram, we ran the annotation task 10 times, so that we have, for each Tangram, 10 individual annotations. We densely annotated 74 Tangrams. For each, we ran the task 50 times, so that we can have a better sense of what the distribution of the annotations is like. we obtain a vocabulary size of over 4,500, which is a considerably rich vocabulary given that our stimuli is highly abstract and made up of a tiny set of simple geometric shapes. Our data is diverse along multiple dimensions, and we analyze 3 of them. For each, we develop a formal metric to measure it. First, we look at shape naming divergence. For some tangrams in our data, we observe relatively low diversity in naming the whole shape. For example, on the left, all annotators agree on naming the first shape as a dog. However, on the other end of the spectrum, we observe a high diversity in naming the whole shape. For example, on the right, the first shape can be seen as a trophy, a robot, or even Princess Leia from Star Wars. We develop a metric called shape naming divergence to quantify this diversity. The histogram in the middle visualizes the distribution of shape naming divergence values in our dataset. It is heavily skewed towards high diversity, showing that the common pattern is highly diverse shape naming for the tangrams, and it exposes the richness of abstract stimuli. We also analyze the diversity in part naming. For example, here are 2 sets of tangrams with similar whole shape naming, but part names can either be consistent, as on the left, or divergent, as on the right. Although both shapes are named pipe, their parts are completely different. The distribution is still skewed towards high diversity, which means part naming is still highly diverse, but we do see more agreement on part names than whole shape names. Lastly, we analyze the segmentation agreement. Here are 4 sets of tangrams with similar whole shape naming, but on the left, segmentations are relatively consistent, but on the right, there's a high diversity in segmentations. The distribution of part segmentation agreement approximates a normal distribution, and we can see that our data covers the full range of part segmentation agreement. We're hoping this resource will be useful for a variety of tasks in NLP, cognitive science, and many other fields. As a first demonstration, we use this resource to test the visual abstraction and generalization capacities of recent multimodal models, such as clip and field. Models that generalize should recognize known concepts in their abstract form. We can use reference games with abstract stimuli to test vision language models for their ability of generalization. Moreover, Kilogram allows us to do this at scale. Because of the rich part annotation in our dataset, we can construct 4 different experimental setups for the reference games. The first experimental setup is analogous to a classical reference game. In each game, the model is given 10 tangrams, colored in the same color, and a whole shape description for the target. The model computes a probability distribution across all the tangrams corresponding to the description, and the tangram with the highest probability is selected as the prediction. For the second experimental setup, we add parts into the description, and we generate an English sentence with the descriptions using a template. In this way, the model has significantly more textual information in the inputs. For the third experimental setup, we still only use the whole shape description without the part names, but we color the tangrams using the segmentation produced by human participants in our dataset. Lastly, for the fourth experimental setup, we add in all the information from our dataset. The tangrams are colored with a fixed order of colors based on the segmentation, and each color corresponds to a part name position in the description. For example, the orange part in the image always corresponds to the first part name in the description, and so on. For our experiment, we used 2 models, clip and vild. Clip is based on separate encoding of image and text, while vild is trained with joint encoding of image and text. Both models have pre-training objectives that are well fitted to perform reference games out of the box. We did zero-shot evaluation with pre-trained weights out of the box, and we evaluated fine-tuned models trained on a subset of our data. We used reference games with 10 tangrams per game. For the results, we see that pre-trained models' accuracy is uniform in each condition for both models, and close to random prediction, which is around 10%. This means pre-trained models show poor generalization. They also show no use of part information in every condition. We also evaluated human performance on the same task. The human performance is what we would expect to see for a well-generalized model, but we see that the pre-trained model's accuracy is far behind the human performance. Therefore, the models are not generalized in the sense of abstraction out of the box. However, models are able to handle this type of abstract stimuli after fine-tuning. Fine-tuning dramatically increases model performance, and fine-tuned models can also benefit from part information, especially for Wild, in the condition with parts and colors. We hypothesized that the tight integration of modalities in the joint encoding of Wild allows it to make use of the part correspondence in image and text more efficiently. In general, fine-tuned models approach or even surpass human performance. However, this comparison is not that simple. We need to take a closer look into the human performance. Looking at the human performance, we found that overall it shows a similar trend to the fine-tuned models. In addition, we fit a two-component Gaussian mixture model to the distribution of mean accuracies across participants in different conditions. The two estimated means in the two components indicate that there's a low-performing and a high-performing subpopulation. In particular, the high-performing subpopulation still outperforms Wild in every condition, while the low-performing subpopulation may have not made full use of part correspondence information. Lastly, we answered the question, how does adding part information help, in more granularity? To achieve this, we gradually added parts for the models to see in evaluation. As we can see in the plots, part information is beneficial, especially for Wild, but with a diminishing return as more part information is added. So that concludes my talk. Our data and a data dashboard is available through this link. Thank you very much.